walked in this morning and realized that there was a theme going on in my life this morning, that being water. One of the first words Eric said to me this morning was, "They're calling for snow this week." Thanks, Eric.
You're welcome.
I love bearers of great news. But he wasn't the first to bring up the topic of water. In fact, I crossed over the bridge, and I actually enjoy when I cross over the Delaware every morning. I slow down just long enough, because it's a rather narrow bridge in Stockton, but just long enough so I can look out over the side and see where the water level's at. Of course, with all of the snow that's been melting and coming down, the river right now is pretty wide. I've seen it higher. I've definitely seen it lower. And so I've focused a little bit on water. Water right now is not an issue for us. We've got more water than we can deal with. Jan shared we need another 11 inches before we break the record of snow. Told you there's a theme going on this morning. We have had a plentiful winter with water. However, not everybody has. Not everybody has enjoyed, or not enjoyed, the blessing of snow. California is still in a state of drought. Even with the snow that they've gotten up in the mountains late in the year, it still only amounted to about a quarter of their annual snowpack. And with the weather reports proclaiming that El Nino is kicking up again, we are in for a hot summer. The good news is we've got water. But places like California, out in the desert, places down south where they have gotten some snow and some rain this year, but they're still below average. Just the thought of a hot, dry summer puts them on edge. And so we thirst. Or they will anyways. They will be looking for water to be able to supply themselves throughout the summer. The farmers throughout the Midwest will undoubtedly be concerned about lack of rain this summer. So products, produce, will fail, and prices will go up. And so we as a country, in many ways, will thirst this summer, and people around the world as well. And God talks about this a little bit in Exodus, not quite to this degree, but a little bit differently. But he talks about how the people of Israel thirsted. And I forgot to put down the screen. So we're going to go without it, sorry. Because I'm at that point now. So. But the people of Israel, after they wandered, they got frustrated and they thirsted. And as a people, they struggled. And so I want you to hear these words from Exodus 17, the first 7 verses. It reads as follows. The whole Israelite community set out from the desert of Sin, traveling from place to place as the Lord commanded. As they camped at Rephidim, but there was no water for the people to drink. And so they quarreled. They quarreled with Moses and said, "Give us water to drink." Moses replied, "Why do you quarrel with me? Why do you put the Lord to test?" But the people were thirsty for water there, and they grumbled against Moses. They said, "Why did you bring us out of Egypt to make us and our children and livestock die of thirst. And then Moses cried out to the Lord, what am I to do with these people? They are almost ready to stone me. And the Lord answered Moses, walk on ahead of the people, and take with you some of the elders of Israel, and take in your hand the staff with which you struck the Nile, and go. I will stand there before you by the rock at Horeb. Strike the rock, and water will come out of it for the people to drink. So Moses did this in the sight of the elders of Israel, and he called the place Massah and Meribah, because the Israelites quarreled and because they tested the Lord, saying, is the Lord among us or not? As I read through this passage several times this week, I couldn't help but picture a land of people coming from the desert of sin and grumbling, not happy, thirsting, wanting more, not understanding why things were as they are. But I think our country is definitely in this situation. We have been traveling for decades through the desert of sin. We have watched the moral infrastructure of our nation crumble around us. What used to be considered a PG movie is now considered G. What used to be considered taboo on the TV is now considered acceptable. We look back and we see Lucy and Desi in their separate beds. And today, not only do we see husband and wife in the same bed, but on TV, we see people hooking up. Not even in a serious relation, in bed, barely dressed. But that's okay. That's okay for us to have on TV because that's acceptable today. We've lost that moral edge. It's okay for us to promote games, video games, and activities that promote death and killing. And I can go on and on and on. It's not a surprise to you that the moral edge of our nation has crumbled around us. And yet we still hear the Israelite people saying, is the Lord among us or not? Yes, I said that right. It's the Israelite people. We, as God's people, are wondering, where is the Lord? We are thirsting for something. We cry out when we have a disaster. We cry out when there are crimes that are aberrations to what we can believe. But we fail to make the connection that in our culture it is okay to pretend these things just so long as we don't do it. We're not making that connection. And the people are starting to ask, give us water. We need something. And many of us in the church look at each other and we repeat the words of Moses. Why do you quarrel with me? For we know what the problem is. Why do you put the Lord to the test? Because you obviously have walked away from you, being culture, have walked away from God. And yet we thirst. I think the Lord is giving us an idea of how to address this issue here. For the Lord answers Moses, he says, walk on ahead of the people, take with you some of the elders of Israel, and take in your hand the staff with which you struck the Nile, and go. And I will stand there before you. In too many cases, the church will stand up and from this platform will profess how thirsty we are as a nation, how much we have strayed away from God. And then we walk out the door. And we carry on with our lives. And maybe we might say something to our children or our grandchildren, maybe to a neighbor. But then yet we still wonder why things don't change. What if we were to take this verse 5 from Exodus 17, and actually walk on ahead of the people with some of the elders, with some of the believers, with some of the faithful, and stand before the people and show that God is at work? I was thinking about this week, and it just kept driving that home with me over and over and over. I'm like, how are we supposed to do this? We're a small group of people. How are we supposed to do this? But we are not to do it alone. But we could start it. What if we were to take a small group of people, 3, 4, maybe 5 people, and go to, just right here in our community, Abington, Upper Dublin, Upper Moreland, go to their council meetings, sit in the back of the room and not say a word. Or even stand outside, and during the whole time that they are in session, be in prayer. Pray for that council. Those who set the guidelines, the rules, the directions for our community. We sit here every week and we pray for the leaders of our community. But what if we were to actually go when they are being the leaders and lift them in prayer? What if we were to ask the other churches? Willow Grove Baptist, Calvary Presbyterian, St. Anne's Episcopal. What if we were to ask them to join us in this community to pray for these groups? But that's only one part of the problem. These little ones sitting up here have the same effects based on the leaders of our schools. What if we were to go to a school board meeting as well and not say anything, but to sit in the back of the room and to bring God into their meeting through prayer? It sounds radical because everybody is against putting God back in schools. But we're not preaching. Rather, we are becoming the elders of the church and we are going before the people. And God says in verse 7, I will stand there before you. Sorry, verse 6. I will stand there before you Strike the rock, pray for the people, and water will flow. What if we were to actually go and pray? I wonder. Now, I will go so far as to say I have not looked to see when the councils meet. I've not checked the school board schedules, although I know some of you have that information. But what would it be like to go and pray? Literally, for our leaders. Not just say it, not from the comfort of our homes or from our sanctuary, but to take it to them. You see, our nation is thirsty. It is dry. It has been wandering through the desert for decades. And they are searching for water. My friends, we thirst. The Lord calls us with an answer. If you are intrigued, I invite you to act. Invite. Go. Stand before the rock. Strike it with prayer. To God be the glory.